Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Tf1 show, and welcome to my little live post-race review. This week, I'm very excited to have Keira join me again for the second time in, I think, 3 weeks. Keira is from her own channel, Keira Megan F1. Thank you so much for joining, Keira.
No worries. Thank you very much for having me. I'm excited to do this.
Yeah, it's going to be really fun. I have, as always, linked all of her details down in the description, so you can go watch her on the YouTube channel and go and subscribe there. And I've also linked her Twitter handle because she's really entertaining on Twitter as well for all of the
annoying,
all of the all of the goings on in the F1 Twitter world. So, Keira, it's been an interesting one at Imola. I don't really know yet how I feel about it. I have very mixed emotions about everything that happened, everything that went down. What did you make of the race?
Yeah, I feel mixed as well. I feel like the start, like maybe the first half of it, was very boring. And I was thinking, oh my God, I don't know what to do anymore. But then it got better and it picked up and different things happened. Obviously, the things that happened were to people that I probably wouldn't want it to have happened to, i.e. Pierre and George mainly. But in the end, I feel positive about it. I think it got a lot better and I actually enjoyed it, yeah.
Okay, yeah, I think the last couple of laps made up for what was a bit of a boring first half of the race. Yeah. Like, things kicked off at the end, which I think sort of made up for everything that was going on earlier. But all round, I guess it was an okay race. I'd say out of the 3 races we had at Italy, probably my least favorite. But like, I think both Monza and Mugello were so hectic and chaotic to begin with. It's always going to be hard to top those 3. Yeah, exactly. So before we get into, the teams and the drivers themselves, let's quickly reflect on the fact that Mercedes was able to win their 7th consecutive constructors title at Imola, which is a record. They've broken Ferrari's long-standing record of 6 consecutive championships. And I thought, Keira, I don't know if you maybe wanted to give your view on, firstly, what do you make of the achievement in itself? Where do you rank this achievement in Formula One history? And then secondly, how long do you think they are going to be able to maintain this form and this dominance looking ahead?
Yeah, firstly, massive congratulations to Mercedes. It's an absolutely incredible achievement. I don't think anybody expected records to be broken like this, and I don't think people really realize, and even myself, like, I'm still looking at it thinking it's amazing, but I don't think we're really going to realize until we're like 30 years down the line and we're going to be like, wow, that really happened, like we really lived through that. But I really enjoyed it. I thought it was really good. I think it's amazing that the Mercedes have done that. It's an amazing achievement. How long it can last for, I think quite a long time. I think they're still going to dominate in 2022 regs. So then I can't remember when the next reg change is, but maybe that might be when it changes. But they're just always one step ahead. Like now, they're focusing on 2021, whereas other teams are still developing this car. But because they've wrapped everything up, they're on to next year. And until this cycle somehow stops, I think they're going to keep dominating. But amazing for Mercedes. Mercedes are the people that got me into Formula One. Mercedes were my team from when I started watching Formula One. So inevitably, I'm very happy for them, and yeah, I mean, hats off to them. Amazing job.
Yeah, it's incredible, and I think this team is just getting stronger and stronger. I think that's the most impressive thing for me. Is it's not like they started out strong and then they just sort of rode on that success for the years after. It's they had more difficult years in 2017, 2018, bounced back from that. This year is arguably their strongest year out of all of the years that they've dominated. It's the best car in my mind that they've built, overall. And obviously with Hamilton and Bottas in the team doing the job, they really, really look unstoppable. I think if one thing can throw them off their game, it could be something similar to what happened with Ferrari at the end of, I think, 2006. If a lot of the top brass leaves all at once. So if we have Toto leaving, maybe Andrew Shovlin, James Vowles, the strategist, James Allison, if 2 or 3 of those people leave at once, I think it can have quite a big impact on the team. But from what it looks like at the moment, it doesn't seem like people are really on the way out, with the exception of Toto, who seems like he's sort of preparing his successor to take over the role. But yeah, I'd like to echo everything that you said. Massive congratulations to Mercedes. and to Hamilton, and to Bottas, and to Toto Wolff, and to all of those people that's been doing such an amazing job with the team for so long. It is really a ridiculous achievement. And I think, it's always tough to really appreciate greatness while experiencing it. But I think when we look back 10 years from now, we're going to look back on Mercedes like we look back on, the Schumacher and Ferrari years as just one of those, all-time dominant performances, one of those all-time great performances. Okay, Keira, let's talk about the race specifically now and about the team. So we are talking about Mercedes. Let's talk about their driver specifically over this weekend. I thought Bottas was doing a good job up until he ran over the debris. I don't know what you thought.
Yeah, I think he was doing a good job. I think he'd done everything he needed to. I think the debris and the damage that he had probably hindered him quite a lot because I was watching the gap from when Lewis needed to have his pit stop, and Lewis was gaining like 0.8 a lap. It was quite a lot. So obviously that damage was more than what we thought. Max, I think we didn't realise how bad the damage was just because Max was kind of always that kind of secondish behind. So it didn't look like it was as bad, but obviously it's because it's a Red Bull behind Mercedes. Whereas if it was Lewis behind it, I think you'd notice the damage a little bit more. So yeah, he wasn't. I'd like to see what he would have done in that situation if he didn't have the damage. I'd like to see whether that gap would have still opened up to, I think it opened to about 28.5 seconds before the virtual safety car. So I would have liked to have seen, if he didn't have the damage, what that would have been like. But, I mean, overall, Lewis, yet again, he's fallen in a lucky situation. He's got a lot of them this year. Yeah, I mean, Mercedes done what they needed to do. They had a 1-3. They changed it to a 1-2. Perfect job, really.
Yeah, I found Hamilton's performance to be actually quite good after the race start. Obviously, the start wasn't great, and then he dropped down to third. But, I mean, he decided to go long after Bottas pitted. He said, no, don't talk to me. Don't argue with me. I'm going to go fast now. And he went fast. As you said, it was pulling big gaps on Bottas throughout. And the thing is, I think even with the virtual or without the virtual safety car, it probably would have come out in front on newer tires. Because at that point, he was just pulling a massive gap. As you said, it was 28 seconds ahead at that point. So, and I mean, at pit stop, if he stayed out for a couple more laps, which he probably would have, if the virtual safety car didn't happen, he would have been, about 30 seconds ahead, I would have guessed. And then it's an easy window if Mercedes do their job properly. But yeah, I don't know. I don't have much else to say about Mercedes. They did what they were supposed to do. They did their job. As you said, they converted a 1-3 into a 1-2. Job done for them. Unlucky for Valtteri, but it's just been one of those seasons for him. When he's had to do the job, sometimes they didn't come together. Sometimes he got unlucky. It's been one of those. But I want to talk about Red Bull next. Now, obviously, it's a sore point of conversation for me, and I'm sure we'll get into it now. Let's talk about Max first. Max again had a good race, split the Mercedes, had a bit of engine trouble initially during qualifying, and then had obviously the tire issue that just blew up on him. What did you make of Max's performance over the weekend?
Max looked really strong this weekend. I think every weekend he's getting stronger and stronger. There's little for me to say he's doing otherwise because he's just doing amazing. To see him stay that close behind Valtteri was just incredible. Like, I was literally actually watching it like thinking you're just so good. And I'm not like a massive Max Verstappen fan, but you can't not appreciate what he's doing. Like, he's just stuck behind that Mercedes so well. Really unfortunate with the tyre incident. It looked like just ran over some debris. And that obviously really ruined his weekend because he would have been on to a good. I don't know. I always think, would he have kept that P2? Would he have gone down to P3? I kind of feel like he would have dropped to P3. But regardless, great points there, and he would have got that. So a shame. But in terms of actual pace, incredible this weekend. Really, really, really good.
I agree. Okay, Keira, let's talk about the big elephant in the room. And I want everybody listening to appreciate how difficult this is for me to say, because it's been a journey for me. Me and Alex Albon have been on a journey this year in 2020. We've had a couple of highs, we've had many lows, but watching him spin all on his own after being overtaken by Perez, I don't know, Keira. I think it's done. Like, I don't know. I had a little glimmer of hope before the weekend. Even after qualifying, I was like, if he can have a good race next week, maybe he can make an argument for himself. But I think it's done. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree. Unfortunately, I mean, bringing Alex up into Formula One anyway was a late-minute call. He was never anybody that really impressed in junior categories. He was good, but he wasn't amazing. But they brought him up, and then obviously went straight up into that Red Bull. I knew, unfortunately, I'm so sorry. I knew this was going to happen. I knew what happened to Pierre was going to happen to Alex. I knew it because that's what happens at Red Bull. Nothing to do with Alex, nothing to do with Pierre. Just happened. But it hurts me to see Alex Albon this far back. Like, he was having a fight with Danny Kvyat the whole race. Shouldn't have been happening. You shouldn't be there. You shouldn't be there. I don't know why you're there. We were talking, Crofty was talking about, Alex Albon's now on the chase for Charles Leclerc. No, he's not. He's on the defense from Danny Kvyat. Like, that's
he was closer to Kvyat than what he was to Leclerc the whole race. I was like,
I kept seeing Danny's like DRS open, and I'm like, oh my god. But the spin. Oh my gosh, the spin. I don't know how he done that. It's like a Sebastian Vettel moment when I think it's Bahrain, when he just kind of went round.
It's similar to one of your favorites that we're going to talk about later. So, I mean, I feel both of us were in pain during that lap or during that phase of the Grand Prix.
Oh God, don't want that. But in terms of Alex, in terms of his spin, I don't know how he done it. I don't know. Too much power out the corner, I guess. She said after the race, the team told him that someone hit him, and I think it was Ted was like.
Yeah, it was like, no.
No, I think it was just you. But unfortunately for Alex, I think his fate's been decided now, and obviously they can't just place him back in AlphaTauri. I think he needs to be looking somewhere else, and he can't go to Nissan Edams for Formula E next year because they've got their lineup sorted. So I don't know what he's going to do. I don't know.
That's the part that gets me. Is like, look, okay, if they demote him out of Red Bull back into AlphaTauri, I would have been like, okay, fine. You know what? Yeah. It's fine. Makes sense. But for him to just be stranded without a future next year is just so tough. Like, in my mind, I just think that's so harsh on someone that's literally been on this weird, like, it's been this sort of surreal roller coaster that he's been on since the beginning of last year, where he was pulled up into the team in Red Bull halfway through, did okay at the end of last year, then this year just couldn't get up to speed, couldn't deal with the car, and now we're at the end of the season, and he's potentially completely out of the sport. And I just find that to be brutal, but I guess Formula One is a brutal sport. I mean, look at our boy Callum Ilott. I mean, living his best life without a seat next year as well. So
yeah.
So I guess it's one of those things. It's one of those things. I do hope that Alex does find a seat somewhere, whether it's in Formula E. Maybe, you never know. Maybe Helmut Marko decides to, leave Tsunoda and give Albon another chance at AlphaTauri. You never know. I hope at least something good comes out of this for him, because he does deserve it. I don't think he deserves to be banished from the world of motorsport after a couple of months at Red Bull. And Keira, before we move on to the next team, I want to ask you, because I asked this to Will and Dorney last week as well. If you had to pick a replacement for Albon next year, who would it be?
Nico Hulkenberg, 100%. I think someone made a good point on it on Sky earlier. They were like, obviously, if you were to say either Checo or Hulk, I actually am only picking from the people who are kind of the options. If I was to actually pick somebody, I would go with, But in terms of like their actual options, if you were going to pick Checo or Nico, I would go with Nico, because I just feel like he's more on like I'm just relaxed, I'll just be here to do what I need to do. Whereas I think Checo's still got a lot of fight in him, and I feel like he takes things a lot more to heart. We knew the situations with him and Esteban back in Force India days. It got tense, and I don't think that's what Red Bull want. I think they want someone to just step in, get the points, get the podiums, and we all want to see Nico Hulkenberg on the podium. Like, we all want to see that. We all want to see him back in Formula One. So yeah, I'd say Nico, and I presume Dorney would have said that as well.
She didn't. I was so surprised, and I was a bit confused, because she said Perez, that she said it makes more sense to get Perez in. But then the whole week after, she was like, no, Nico Hulkenberg to Red Bull. And I was like, Dawn, you need to make up your mind.
She doesn't know what she's talking about.
Oh, gosh. Okay, but yeah, to be honest, if Nico Hulkenberg were to get that Red Bull seat, that would soften the Albon blow to me somewhat. Like, to me, that would be like, it would make me feel a little bit better. Not a lot better, just a little bit better, because nothing can mend my broken heart after this race. But it's fine. It's fine. Let's talk about AlphaTauri next. Oh no, sorry, not AlphaTauri next. Let's talk about Renault next, because Daniel Ricciardo got a very unlikely podium. I have to say, I thought for the majority of the race, of course, before everything kicked off at the end with the safety car, I thought Ricciardo was going to lose out to Leclerc and Albon at the end, because his soft tires went off so dramatically in the first stint. I thought he was going to be in trouble at the end with Leclerc and Albon looking a bit faster. But he held on. He got another podium. And yeah, I mean, Danny Rick doing the things. Esteban Ocon, he tried. He had reliability issues, shame. But it's not like he was running in the front to begin with. So what did you make of Renault's weekend? It was a bit of a weird one in my mind.
Yeah, it was a bit of a weird one. I don't think anybody expected a podium, obviously, because we were expecting the two Mercedes and I've moved my camera and Max. But yeah, I mean, Daniel was where he needed to be in case something like that happens in the top three, and it is exactly what happened. Even though Checo had such a good strategy. What's the word? Strategy. No, it's not.
Yeah.
That's the word I was going to say. But obviously they pitted him when they should have done whatever. But Daniel was in the right place at the right time, and he held on, done a good job. Charles Leclerc was coming behind him the whole race, but held him off. Done a good job, really. On the other hand, I don't even really know Esteban. I don't even know where he was in the race. I don't really know what he was doing. And
he was doing a brilliant job. He was doing a brilliant job in 12th. That's what he was doing. Holding his own against George Russell and the Alfa Romeos. That's where he was, representing his team to the maximum is what he was doing, until he was unfairly and completely unprovoked. He was taken out by his own car after doing such a good job. Yes. After
running so high. Oh, bless him. I don't know what to say. It must be so difficult to go back to your team knowing that they're celebrating this podium, and in a way, it might be better that he's DNF rather than coming 15th. In a way, he's kind of got that I've actually had a DNF, sit in the car. But it must be difficult for him to see. I think he did look a little bit disheartened, when he done the interviews. Obviously, they're all talking about Daniel and second podium of the year, and Esteban's, so far behind. I didn't expect Esteban to be this slow this year. I don't really know why he is. I still think he's a good driver.
I also think so. I'm glad you agree with me, because other people bully me about liking Ocon. I still think he's a good driver.
Yeah, there's still that piece of. Honestly, me in 2017, I think. I was a proper Esteban Ocon fan. I was a proper he was one of my favorite drivers. I think 17, 18. So yeah, there's still that little bit of me in there that's I feel so bad for him, because he is a good talent. And it's just not coming forward in this Renault. I'm hoping he doesn't get completely dominated next year with Alonso, because that would be very good. But yeah, overall this weekend, Renault done pretty well. I don't think they ever expected to pick up a podium. So I think, that's the highlight, and they'll take that away as a positive.
100%. Now, the one team that I was completely surprised by this weekend was AlphaTauri. Now, firstly, we had Pierre. What did he finished qualified P4? Yes, P4, which is insane to me. I couldn't believe it. And, Kvyat also in the top 10, which for Kvyat is a remarkable achievement. And then obviously in the race, we had heartbreak for Keira. Pierre Gasly had to retire due to a terminal issue after doing such a good job. He did get overtaken by Ricciardo at the start, but I mean, he still, if you look how the race panned out, I think it would have finished quite high up.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, AlphaTauri done a really good job this weekend. Qualifying was amazing. Danny Kvyat, I'm so impressed with this weekend. So impressed with showing what he can do in the race and in qualifying. Really, really good. Pierre actually had an awesome start. However, going 3 wide into turn 1 with Max and Lewis isn't going to work out right. And Lewis took his line. Pierre obviously had to step back, and then because of that, Daniel got ahead, which was a shame. But Daniel was on the right side, so that's what happens. And if there was more room, like if we were at a different track with more room, I reckon that would have been good. Like that would have been good. Pierre probably could have got around some people, so we don't know where he could have ended up, but he didn't. And he obviously had that issue before the race as well, didn't he? So that was always kind of looming over. But I thought it started, maybe it would have just gone away. Maybe it was a sensory issue. Maybe it was something that was more like on the technical side. But unfortunately, it wasn't. And you have to retire. But overall, I'm not too disheartened because I know how much pace they had. And to see Danny Kvyat out there as well is really good. Like, I've never said I'm a massive Danny Kvyat fan. But I like watching his racing. I like the way he races. And it was just really good to watch him this weekend. So yeah, overall I think they had a really good weekend.
I also think so. What I did find slightly depressing for Kvyat after the race is apparently, Helmut Marko congratulated him very nicely, and somebody asked Marko, does Kvyat's performance change his view on how the race went? What did he thought of the race? And Marko was just like, nah, maybe it will help him with his future career prospects somewhere else. And I was like, that's so harsh. I mean, just let the man enjoy his good performance before, for a couple of hours before he say things like that.
Oh, Helmut Marko is honestly.
I can't with Helmut Marko. But anyway, good job, AlphaTauri. You did a good job overall. Somebody that didn't do a good job. I mean, I'm getting some nice crackles here again, but it's fine. We'll battle through. Somebody who didn't do a good job was Sebastian Vettel's pit crew, which was an unmitigated disaster.
Crackling. Am I crackling your end?
Not as bad. Like it sounds more crackly when I speak, but I mean, as I said, I don't think we can do anything about it.
If not, pull your headphones out and let everyone hear me. Sebastian, yeah. Don't really know what Sebastian was doing this weekend, really. I don't think he knows what he's doing any weekend. I don't really have much to say. I wasn't really watching him in the race. I know he did tap Kevin Magnussen and turn Kevin Magnussen around, which wasn't great. To be honest with you, I think he went out a bit wider out of that corner. And yeah, Kevin went spinning. That's the only thing I really can say about Sebastian weekend. I don't know what he done. He's kind of just staying in a similar place every week. There's nothing that he's really doing that's actually worth picking up on. So I think he's just counting down the races now until he can move over.
Yeah, he's completely over it, I think. Like the poor man has just been going through the most. Charles did a good job again. I think overall P6, P5, P5. I think from a P7, which is a really good performance given that Ferrari.
Yeah, definitely. I think he's doing a really good job. Every week he's improving. I think Charles is improving with the car. And I think that kind of feeds into the fact that obviously they're building it with him, they're building it around him, which is fair enough. Sebastian is leaving, despite that wasn't his choice. But anyway. It's working with Charles. It's doing good. Obviously, it's still not where it needs to be, but it's still doing well. And he done exactly what he needed to do this weekend. I was very worried that down that long straight he was going to get overtaken, but people like Alex Albon and Danny Kvyat was stuck behind him. They couldn't get around him. So the straight line speed is improving on that Ferrari. That's really good to see. And hopefully by next year at least, maybe we can see the Ferrari up there a little bit more, and hopefully with Carlos as well, because it's not nice to only see one of them up there.
How do you think Carlos is going to get on next to Charles?
Well, we had a massive discussion about this with the Girls at F series for a video for my channel. It's going to be very touch and go. It's going to be dependent on how the team dynamic plays out. I feel like on track he's going to be okay. I think it's when the other aspects come into it, like team orders and just the background stuff that's going on, really. I don't think it'll be bad. I don't think it'll be a bad relationship. I don't think Charlotte's the type of guy to be horrible or malicious or anything like that. And I don't think it's not as bad as Red Bull. But yeah, I don't know if it's going to go great, but I don't think it's going to be awful. We're just going to have to see how they play it with the number one driver, number two driver, etc.
Yeah, I'm going to reserve my opinion until we actually see what happens. Let's talk about another driver whose strategy was screwed over by his team. Sergio Perez, the other candidate for the potential Red Bull seats, drove such a good race from 11th. to run ahead of Ricciardo and that whole gaggle of cars basically behind Verstappen. And then they pitted him, and then he lost his track position. But all in all, another strong weekend for Perez. He's doing everything he can to stake his claim to that Red Bull seat.
Yeah, he had an amazing weekend. He actually had a good strategy. He had a good strategy at the start of the race. He got ahead of Leclerc, Daniel, Alex, Daniel. Like, he got ahead of all of them. And I was filming for Veloce for Backseat Driver, and I don't know what they'll put in, but I was just like, hang on a minute, why did they pit him again? Like, what? This wasn't necessary. And I kind of get why they did, but kind of didn't, because he was in P3. Like, in the last 5 laps, you're not going to have everybody overtake you. Like, there was just, I really don't think it wasn't necessary. And I think Sergio's actually really upset about it and really quite hurt about it, because he's realised he has missed out on a podium, which could be his last in Formula 1, because, he's not signed for anywhere next year. So it's a real shame, because he done everything right. The team shouldn't have pitted him. Like, that's the answer, the simple answer to that. They shouldn't have pitted him, but it's a shame. I would have liked to have seen him on the podium. Even though I like Daniel Ricciardo, I would have liked to, get Sergio a chance on the podium this year. So everything was going right up until the last 10 laps.
Yeah, I mean, I feel bad for Sergio, but I guess that's also how the cookie crumbles. It could have. It was actually really close to the soft tires paying off in a completely different way. He could have been on the podium, and we all would have said, "What a brilliant idea by by Racing Point to pit him." So, I mean, I think it's just one of those 50-50 calls that sometimes works and sometimes doesn't, and there's not much else we can do about it. Now, Keira, I want to ask you, did you see Lance Stroll once during the race?
The only time I saw Lance Stroll was... No, I think what happened with... Hang on. Was it this race or was it last weekend? He does this so often that I can't remember. He's always running last. I'm pretty sure something happened at the start and he was running last. Was that right? Or was
yes.
That wrong? Or was that right?
It was right. Okay. He was spun round by Vettel.
So the only time I saw Lance was when he ran over his front jack man. That's the only time I saw Lance this weekend. So I don't know. I can't give you any updates on it because I don't know what he's done.
Same. All I'm saying is Racing Point is starting to look really dumb by firing Perez and keeping Lance. And I know why they kept Lance. There's no point in commenting about it, but they're just looking really stupid at the moment because Perez is completely lighting it up. But anyways, we digress. Let's talk about the McLaren boys. Not much for me to say there this weekend, except, they did what they were supposed to do, I guess. Came 7th and 8th, did a good job. I don't know if you had anything else that you picked up that's interesting.
No, I mean, I think Carlos jumped Lando at the start after I think Lando did out-qualify him. And from then, they were literally just running in sync the whole race. Like, just one after another they were always on the back of that train of Danny, Alex, Charles and Daniel. They were always on the back of that train. Sometimes they were quite close, sometimes they weren't close, but they were always on the back of that train. There was absolutely nothing really else to say. They were just running in sync with each other. Good points at the end of the day from McLaren though. They didn't do anything special, but they did hold on to that place, so they didn't fall backwards in any way. But I didn't see them do anything again. That's kind of all I picked up on them, really. You always saw them in the back of the shot, with each other. That's about it.
Literally. I mean, but to be honest, they are, and I actually made a video about this a while back. I think they're the best driver pairing in Formula One at the moment, in terms of, as you say, they're so evenly matched. They do the job that they're supposed to do. If they don't get hit by reliability or anything else, they are consistent. They're running in tandem. They give the team opportunities for strategy, something that Red Bull desperately wants to do with Max and Alex, but Alex is just always a couple of places behind Max. Where with McLaren, it's always the two close together, gives them options. They can offset. They can run the same strategy. So I think they're doing a really good job, despite maybe not finishing as high as some of the others this weekend.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay, so let's talk about the teams at the back of the grid. So we have 3 left. Let's get the painful one out of the way first, Keira. George.
Okay. Well, what do you want to know? How I was feeling? How much?
Tell us about your emotions. Tell us what went through your mind as you saw him career into the wall.
So initially, we just see this Williams in the wall. And my first reaction, unfortunately, is, oh, it's Nicholas Latifi. I always it's Nicholas. I'm like, it's Nicky. That's Nicky doing the ball. And I'm like, oh wait, that's not Nicky, that's George. And I just thought, what are you doing? And it didn't hit me then that Max had just, like, he was in the points. Like, Max had just, created this issue. It didn't hit me. And I was like, oh my God, what the hell have you done? And then I realised he'd done one of those Romain Grosjean Baku 2018 incidents where he just careered himself like, whoa. And I thought, I can't believe you've done that. It's so weird because I rate George Russell so highly. I think everybody knows. I rave about him, and he doesn't make mistakes like this. He's never made mistakes like this. It's not something he does. So when he done this, I was like, that's embarrassing. You don't normally do things like that. Are you feeling okay? Like, what's going on? So it's embarrassing. He really knows he's messed up. He's being very hard on himself, both straight after, and then also on social media. But yeah, when I realised that he'd then missed out on points, I was like, do you know what? I can't be bothered with Formula One. I was like, just turn it to I was like, this is too much. It was embarrassing, and it done a lot of damage. It just snapped so quickly. But it happens. We've got to move on. I'm sure there'll be more opportunities for him, but it's such a shame.
Yeah, I mean, you'd said everything I felt as well. There's not much. I can't add anything else. I was devastated. And like after the George accident, you know how horrible the race finished for me? Because first, George had his thing. No, first Ocon retired. Then I was already like, my heart. Then George drove into the wall, and I was like, I can't deal with this race anymore. And then Alex spun, and then I was just like, you know what? Actually, maybe Formula One isn't the sport for me. Maybe I must go and watch badminton or fencing, anything that doesn't play with my emotions like this, because it's really difficult. It's really hard for me. But anyways, so Nicholas, he was behind George in the qualifying. He was behind George in the race. He did what he was supposed to do. I mean, he didn't crash into a wall, so that's nice for Nicholas. But other than that, it was sort of a decent performance, nothing out of this world.
No, I don't really have much to say about Nicky. I don't really know what he done. I wasn't really watching him, but I think he was just kind of where he needed to be. I don't think he wasn't last. I think he was like 17th-ish type area in that kind of couple of places from the bottom. So it wasn't amazing, wasn't bad. It was okay.
Yeah, it was okay. That's all we can say basically for Latifi's race. Somebody who didn't have an okay race, but a great race, was Kimi Raikkonen. Did something similar to Perez, maybe not as well as Perez, but stayed out forever and ever and ever on those tires. Pitted, overcut a bunch of cars, and was running very nicely, I think, in 11th until George had his accident, and then he was promoted into the points.
Yeah, Kimi did a mega job. I think he stayed out. His stint was very long at the start, paid off completely. You never know whether those alternate type strategies are going to work or not, but it did. Did a really good job. Held where he needed to do. I think the strategy kind of was more the reason why he got a good result than his actual driving. Like, he didn't actually do anything spectacular, but I mean, he held on to this place, defended well, and yeah, all round good job for Kimi. I hope he's happy with it because it was a good result, and it'd be good for Alfa Romeo as well.
Yeah, a really great result. I mean, can I just give props? And I've been really harsh on him this whole season. But Giovinazzi had a brilliant opening lap. Like, he made up so many positions again. Don't know how he does it, but I was quite impressed with Antonio. Maybe it's that fresh new contract, I don't know, verve that he has, that new feeling that he has as being signed for another year and into Formula One team. But we can give props to Giovinazzi. Finished a position behind Kimi. Did an okay job given he started last.
Yeah, 100%. I agree. I think yesterday I was like, oh my gosh, it's P20. Like, what the hell are you doing? And then before the race, I actually thought, oh my God, wait. No, he's really good at starts. So I'm going to watch him. I literally said, I'm going to watch Antonio on this start. And I did. And he was up to P14. Absolutely incredible. I don't know what to say. It was just really good, really good. He just sends it. I don't know how he does it. I don't know why he does it on the first lap, but then can't carry it on. It's so weird.
It's very weird that he can do all of this on the first lap, and then on the second lap onwards, it's nothing.
Now he's done it. He's done it. I think he can't do it in qualifying. Like, he can't do a qualifying lap. Maybe he needs to do his qualifying laps with other cars around him, and then maybe
he must like line up behind other cars and start his qualifying lap, and then you're just going to see him getting like 6s and 7s all over the place. Alrighty, lastly, before we move on to the awards, let's talk about Haas. Now, I mean, the Haas drivers, they went through the most this weekend. Kevin Magnussen was getting a migraine because his gearbox was too jerky. Roman Grosjean got a 5-second penalty just as, the checkered flag came out for not being able to stay on the track. It's been a tumultuous weekend for the Haas drivers, I'm not going to lie. I'll also say that other than those 2 incidents, I literally did not take note. As per usual, like the Haas drivers are quite anonymous this year so far. I don't know what they're doing, but it's been one of those quiet performances for them at the back.
Yeah, it was. I didn't really see anything apart from when Kevin started saying his head hurt. I felt a bit bad for him. Felt a little bit sorry. Not nice to have a headache in the car. And it was quite funny when they were like, "Oh, do you want to retire?" He's like, "Well, that's my job, isn't it? I've got to carry on."
I mean, he's not wrong.
No, he's not. I was like, fair play, but he was running. When I looked, fair enough, he was running the points, but then I saw he's running P18. So inevitably, they did take the decision to retire him, which I thought was a good idea. Roman Grosjean, I can't remember where he was once. I don't know if he ended. Did he ever get up into the points? Or am I making up? I don't really know. No, I don't know what Roman done this weekend. I didn't watch him at all.
Yeah, same. I mean, I'm sorry, Roman, if you're watching, and I'm sure you are, but I wasn't watching you. I was watching everything else, but I'm sure you did a good job, except stay on the track. You didn't do that. You didn't do that really well. But you know what? It's okay. It's okay. We all go through difficulties. As you can hear, I mean, we're currently going through difficulties with our sound, but like Kevin Magnussen and his headache, we are soldiering on because it's our job, Keira. It's our job to keep on going despite not everything going as we planned. So keeping that in mind, let's move on to the Tf1 Awards that we hand out at the end of each of these race recaps. Now, Keira, there are 3 categories as per normal. And the first one is the Pastor Maldonado Award for most dunderheaded deed over the weekend. Now, who in your mind did the stupidest thing over this 2-day race weekend that we have?
Right. I'm gonna. If George didn't do his incident, I would have said Alex, but Alex has got away with it. I'm gonna say George. I think that was just the weirdest thing, the stupidest thing, the most painful thing. Like, fair enough, Alex spun by himself, but like, he's got other opportunities. This was George's opportunity, and he threw it literally in the wall. So George Russell, hands down.
George Russell is a good one. I would like to nominate someone else, and that is Sebastian Vettel's pit crew for ruining the first good race that Vettel had in such a long time. He was literally also going to overcut Charles, Daniel. He was going to overcut all of them on new tires, I think.
Yeah.
And then his 13-second pit stop ruined it. So that's my nomination for the stupidest thing, because how dare you? Sebastian has been nothing but nice to you, Ferrari, and then you ruined it for him on the one race that it was going well. So, I mean, I was proper cross when I saw that. But anyways. Okay, Keira, the next award is the Lewis Hamilton #Blessed Award for Luckiest Driver. Who do you think?
Do you know what? That might have to go to Lewis Hamilton, because I feel like he would have overtaken Valtteri anyway, but he got that virtual safety car right when he needed it, and there it was straight away. He won, thank you, lovely. It could have gone to Daniel because he was quite lucky in the way he's got that podium because Max's tyre blew up, but I'm going to give it to Lewis. Probably.
I mean, it is his award. The award is named after him, so it would just make sense. And also, I would like to go to Daniel. I would like to give it to Daniel just because I feel the stars did align for him slightly, because first Max had the tyre blow up, and then Perez decided to give up track position, the pit stop. So I think, two good things or fortunate things happened for him to get that podium. So, but I think both of them are strong contenders for the award. And then lastly, Keira, we have the Nico Hulkenberg Podium Award for Unluckiest Driver.
I'm going to give this to Pierre Gasly, not because I'm upset, maybe because I'm upset, maybe a little because I'm upset. But because
maybe
he started P4, he could have had an opportunity to get a podium today. And because of his engine, that was taken away from him. And I feel like he would have been very, seeing how much pace Danny Kvyat had, 100% Pierre would have had that chance then. So I would have known he would have definitely been up there fighting for P3, especially obviously with Max's issue. So in hindsight, yeah, definitely Pierre Gasly, unlucky. I
agree. I can't argue with that. I think Pierre was robbed by his engine or hydraulics or whatever the problem was. It's a pity for him because he was doing so well this weekend. I was properly impressed with him. And also on the weekend that Red Bull told him basically, you're staying at AlphaTauri, you won't be coming to the big team. For him to put in a performance like that, I think is really impressive. Even though I think you're happy that Pierre didn't get re-promoted back into Red Bull.
Yeah, I'm really happy about it just because I know how toxic it is and I know how upset he was mentally and physically. You could see it. So I'm over the moon. He's actually not back at Red Bull.
Yeah, no. Actually, I agree. I think he is making a good enough name for himself to go and find a good seat all on his own. He doesn't need Helmut Marko anymore. Yeah. He has himself. And Franz Tost, who's my new favorite team principal.
Oh my god, I'm so glad you finally, honestly, Franz has been my favorite for so long. I'm finally, now that he's been on TV, everyone's seeing it as well. So when you said it, I was like, I'm so glad. I love him.
Yes. He's amazing. And on that wholesome note, Keira, I'd like to thank you so much for coming on. Again, despite us having technical difficulties, I think the universe doesn't want us to collab together. I don't know why, because we talk so much sense.
Yeah.
But anyways, thank you so much for coming on. And, it's such a pleasure to have you on the show, as always. You talk so much sense. You're so knowledgeable. You agree with me most of the time. So I feel very validated. It's just been awesome. So thank you so much. And everybody, I will link Keira's stuff down below. And please go and subscribe and watch her brilliant content. I'm definitely going to have her back soon. I think we need to do a bit of a feeder series prediction for next year. As soon as we have a bit more clarity on who's going to be sitting in which seats, I think it's going to be really interesting as well. Yeah, it's going to be amazing. I mean, we have so much to talk about. We still need to do a Formula 2 season debrief, I think, with you, Keira. I think you're the perfect person to do it. And I have lots of emotions, coming out of Formula 2. So it's bound to be an interesting chat. But anyways, you guys, look out for that. So I'll talk to Keira about it and we'll get it out as soon as possible. And yeah, thank you so much for listening. Again, despite our sound difficulties, it's been one of those days in the race and on the podcast. But thank you for sticking around. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you all next week. Cheers, everybody.